Welcome to MedSpa Success Strategies. I'm your host, Ricky Shockley, owner of MedSpa Magic Marketing, and this is where MedSpa owners come to discover strategies and tactics that help them better market and manage their practices so they can grow and create more impact for themselves, their teams, and their patients. Let's start today by talking about winning in the margins. Most of our markets are saturated. In every small town and city, new med spas are popping up like clockwork. Many of them offering similar services, similar pricing, same machines, and targeting the same customers. So how do we set ourselves apart? The answer isn't always flashy branding or a viral TikTok video. It's often about winning in the margins, becoming exceptional in the accumulation of the small things we do right over and over again. See, world-class med spas don't just market better, they manage better. They understand the client experience doesn't start in the treatment room. It starts the second someone lands on the website, clicks the ad, or walks past the storefront. Successful med spas are dialed in when it comes to operations. From the front desk workflows to client follow-up systems, they treat every touch point as an opportunity to earn and develop further trust. They're on top of their financials. They know their numbers inside and out, from cost per customer acquisition to provider utilization to retail margins. Because guess what? Profitability is just as sexy as popularity if you want to build something that lasts. They invest in provider quality, not just training, but culture. The most successful med spas we work with don't just employ injectors or estheticians, they develop them. They create an environment where team members are proud to stay, grow, and shine. And they're relentlessly focused on client experience. I'm talking fast response times, personalized consultations, follow-up that feels thoughtful and not robotic. These little details create emotional connection. That's what ultimately builds loyalty. Let's be real, any med spa can promote and sell a filler special, but not every med spa can create connection, deliver consistency, and cultivate a culture of excellence behind the scenes. So if you're trying to grow, don't just ask yourself, what can we market more? Ask questions like, what can we tighten up? What are the tiny friction points in our client journey? Are our team meetings intentional or just going through the motions? Find the places that you can improve 5 to 10% over and over and over again. Excellence is rarely an event, it's a habit. So this week, take an honest audit of your med spa, front to back. Look at your processes, your people, your presentation, and ask yourself, where are we leaving opportunity on the table? Because success, it lives in the margins. Hey everyone, we're going to cover a few news stories today. First on the docket is an article from AmSpa. I believe actually the original article is from Fierce Pharma. The article title is Lilly Files Lawsuit Against Indianapolis Spa for Selling Repackaged Zepbound. April 10th, 2025. According to a lawsuit filed by Eli Lilly on Monday, April 7th, a spa based in Indianapolis buys auto-injector pens filled with tirzepatide, cracks them open, breaking a sterile seal, and repackages them into lower, unsterile doses. On the website, the business offers, quote, brand name GLP-1 weight loss injections, selling Lilly's Zepbound for $350 a month and Novo Nordisk's diabetes drug Ozempic, which also, against its drug label, has been doubled up as a weight loss medication for $300 a month. In the complaint filed in federal court in the Southern District of Indiana, Lilly says the spa's advertising explicitly contrasts the products it offers from the knockoff, untested, and unapproved products offered by other compounding pharmacies and med spas. Very interesting little takeaway here is, so they weren't actually using the brand name of the drug in their advertising, but they were implying brand usage in their advertising because they said brand name GLP-1 weight loss drugs. So Lilly in this case is saying the implication they're using their product and using the implication of brand name GLP-1 products. So instead of saying, GLP-1, hottest trend in weight loss, medical weight loss injections, the generic type of phrases that you can use as of this time if you're working with a compounding pharmacy that creates products and supplies, they were implying the usage of brand name, and now they found themselves in federal court. So a really good reminder to take a second look at the way that you're communicating. If you're advertising for weight loss, there are a lot of nuances to policy and the way that you communicate and present information that can land you in trouble. So I thought this was a good reminder of that, especially with all the changes with the GLP-1 market. Hey there, wanted to briefly interrupt the episode to make a quick ask. If you're a podcast listener it would mean the world to us if you leave a review for the podcast, whether that's on iTunes or Spotify. It's something I hadn't really remembered or thought of asking for, but it does help us show up more frequently so that we can reach more people with the information that we're providing. So it would mean the world to us if you'd leave a review on iTunes or Spotify, if you're listening on audio. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you're in the loop for future videos and you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. So this episode is brought to you by MedSpa Magic Marketing, my agency. We help med spas and aesthetics practices grow with more effective marketing strategies. And I know that's a vague phrase, right? It's a vague claim. So I have an offer for you. I offer this to any new prospects. If you're interested in exploring another marketing option, a new agency, or just getting into Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads for the first time, I'd love to show you why we're different, what we're doing for clients. And we can do that via a 1.5 hour planning session where I'll outline a specific marketing plan and I'll give you all of the blueprints that we would implement if we were to do business together. Now you can take that, use that on your own, hire someone else to help you execute it, or work with us. We really don't hold anything back on that strategy call. And I think you'll have a lot of confidence in how you manage your marketing investment moving forward, understanding some of the nuances that can help you implement more effective marketing strategies for your business. So if you want to do that, you can go to medspamagicmarketing.com. Our next story, also from AmSpa, is an article from Mers Aesthetics. And the article title here is Mers Aesthetics announces Selma Hayek-Penault as first ever global brand ambassador for All Therapy Prime. Marking Selma Hayek-Penault's first aesthetic collaboration, the new All Therapy Prime campaign aims to set a standard for the future of beauty and self-care, celebrating the transformative power of personalized, non-invasive skin lifting. I'm not going to go into the details of this article. I just thought this was a cool share in relation to what we talked about last week with leveraging influencers and for brand building, right? So if you have a product, in this case, MERS with Zeman, not a well-known toxin, right? Like you've got Dysport with massive brand awareness. MERS does not have that. So people aren't generally going to a med spa asking for Zeman. Those of you who have Zeman know this. Most of the time people are coming in asking for Botox, and you educate them as to maybe why you prefer Zeman or why you offer Zeman in your practice, or the differences, if there are many, between the products. But really good reminder that you can leverage, not just in this case, a national celebrity, but on a local level, just like we talked about last week. Working with people who have sway in your local market to add additional credibility to your brand is a really good way to set yourself apart and create that 5 to 10% improvement in the effectiveness of your marketing campaigns. I thought that was a good example as it related to our topics from last week. And then last story for the day, real quick, from NBC6 in Texas. Texas lawmaker files Jennifer's Law bill to regulate med spa industry. Now, this just moved to committee. This was an article from last month. Texas legislature could consider a bill that would increase regulations on the med spa industry. House Bill 3749, which would classify med spas as medical practices, would require a trained physician to be on site while procedures are being performed or to perform them themselves. So a trained physician to be on site. Obviously, this is a major change for the industry. This would cause massive disruption for med spas that generally work with a medical director who is not indeed on site. And I think this is something, I think AmSpa might have some initiatives around this, but the threat of government regulation is real in this space. We're operating somewhere between medical practice and med spa, and any anecdote, any story that creates an unfavorable view of the med spa space lends itself to potential risk of legislation just like this. So to me, the takeaway here is stay in tune with what's going on in the space, understand the implications, just like in our first story. The potential implications these things can have on your practice, both in the short term and long term, and just make sure you've got plan B in place for the types of things that can and maybe eventually will happen when it comes to regulation or changes in policy prescription with some of these things. So that was it for our news segment today. We're going to bring on Lauren now, and we're going to go to our Magic Move segment presented by MedSpa Magic Marketing. Okay, so in today's Magic Moves, we have more. I'm really excited about this segment. I feel like we're really delivering the goods. Guys, we are testing tens of thousands of dollars in ad spend every week, every month. And every single week now, we're bringing you some of our newest, best, most promising ideas. So a couple cool ones today, Lauren. The first one we wanted to talk about was A lot of you might have seen these ChatGPT generated like action figure toy graphics that people are making. So we've used a version of that to create a new graphic framework. Lauren, do you want to walk us through like what that looks like right now, and even like how we kind of built the pop outs on it, what that framework generally looks like as we started testing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're kind of using the little action figures for, and for those of you who haven't seen it, it looks like a little toy in packaging, and it makes a cartoon version of whoever you put in it. So an injector, maybe your owner, maybe your team even, and then some accessories next to it. So our clients, for example, have like an injector photo and then a bottle of Dysport and a little needle and a thing of lips. It's super cute, and it really does stand out on the feed. It is something trendy right now too. So I think it's popping out quite a bit. But the reason that I think it's so unique is because we're selling the person in this ad rather than just the promo. So a lot of you who follow us and see what we do a lot, it's promo side by side with an injector. So we're mostly trying to sell the promo and make that the number one thing that pops. In this ad, we're selling the person or the med spa and making it why choose that person. One of the reasons we put as a why choose is their best promo or whatever a current promo is, but we also add some other pop outs. So for one of our injectors, for example, we have her number one priority when injecting is safety and natural looking results. So we put that as a pop out. We put her Dysport promo as a pop out. We put that she's been injecting for over 15 years as a pop out. And then we put that she has perfect 5-star rating on Google. Some of the things that really stand out and make you unique, we have to be careful with how we do it too, right? Because everybody could probably put, oh, I'm rated 4.95 stars on Google, or a handful of people. You could put you're injecting for so long, but why is that unique? So we even have somebody who's the official med spa of a cheer team, somebody who hosts a med spa conference, things like that. So really important pop outs that sell the person as well as that promo too, as like a side to it.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool framework. So again, for those of you who aren't familiar, we're talking about Facebook and Instagram ads here, where it's very, very heavy on a graphic or visual as the first part of the ad. And this has been a cool framework we've been testing. Really good early results. Like Lauren said, it helps sell the provider. And it's a cherry on top that we've got a great deal, not just the deal, which is, I think, a tilt that we're making a little bit more and more lately is how do we get people not only excited about the new patient promo, all other things equal, price is definitely a determining factor in terms of the purchase decision. And with a more attractive promotion, you're going to have lower customer acquisition costs. You're going to get more butts in the seats. But how do we prime them to really be excited about the provider? I thought this was a cool way. We also talk about AIDA, the old marketing acronym, attention, interest, desire, action. Really good way to pop, stand out, be different, and grab the user's attention in the newsfeed. I think the version of this we have running for the client Lauren mentioned, she's paying about $10 per lead, which is a really, really solid number. And my hunch would be, as we look at the data, we're probably going to have a little better close rate and better patient quality and maintaining an extremely low lead cost. So really cool little test. I think it's a reminder to be creative, make sure that you're always doing things that stand out, differentiate you, pop in the feed, and really help you grab the user's attention first and foremost, and then get them excited about doing business specifically with your practice, your providers. Anything to add to that, Lauren, for that item?
Yeah, I actually think a big thing kind of that makes it stand out too are the headlines that we're using and testing as well. So for
Yes.
the client we first rolled it out for, we actually tested 8 different versions of a headline. So we're testing things like looking for your new injector, looking for your med spa home, your face deserves an expert you can trust. So certain headlines that really stand out and grab somebody who maybe is looking for somewhere new or somebody who hasn't tried it before, and kind of captures it that way too. So it'll be interesting. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll talk about which one performed the best. But right now it's looking for your injector with your italicized. So pushing that relationship aspect of it too, which I think guides to what we talked about with conversion rate and retention rate as well.
Yeah, I love that. And again, for those of you who are owners and aren't just super familiar with the inner workings of ads platform on Facebook, Instagram, and Google, as a reminder, this is generally the first place we recommend spending ad dollars, just because it's the most effective, lowest customer acquisition cost, best bang for your buck. And these strategies relate to what we're doing on Facebook and Instagram. So again, just as a reminder, you get the data on these platforms, which is magical, right? 8 different versions of that we were able to test and kind of figure out very quickly which one is giving us the best result. Meta optimizes spend, and now the ad dollars are pumping into the one of 8 variations that was working best early on. I think there are a couple that are still generating impressions that, like Lauren said, we're working out. But really cool one. We're excited about that. Always be evolving, find ways to be 5 or 10% better, just like we talked about in our monologue this morning. That involves creating new ideas and not being afraid to take some chances and to experiment a little bit. The next thing that kind of ties into that is some new ad copy. So on Facebook and Instagram, we've got a visual. And then with that visual, just like a post, you've got an image, and then you've got text that accompanies that. So traditionally, I would say our text is very to the point, a little bit on the vanilla side, very effective, but we're trying to always find ways to make that 5 or 10% better. And thinking about retention, patient quality, how do we keep our acquisition cost down? Because acquisition cost is a major determining factor in the ROI calculation. We need to pay as little as possible to get a customer. But how can we do that while also optimizing for patient quality? This new ad copy variation kind of, I think, branches into that. Lauren, I don't know if you have that in front of you, if you wanted me to go over that a little bit.
Yeah, I can. So essentially the main thing that we're doing is making the ad copy from the first person point of view. So it's essentially whoever is pushing the spa, whether it's your owner, whether it's the lead injector, whether it's a new injector you want to push some of your new patients to, and it's talking from a first person point of view. So it's calling out, hi, so-and-so, I'm XYZ, and I'm excited to welcome you into my chair. Here are the things that I really care about. Here are the things that our med spa cares about. These are our reviews. We're also offering this amazing new patient promotion that we'd love to welcome you in for. So it's essentially making it more conversational and kind of cute, honestly, with some emojis and things that are more engaging and making you want to read through it because you're learning something cool. A lot of the ones that I've created recently, our clients actually have really cool backstories that I didn't even know a whole lot of. Like one of our clients competed in pageants in the USA. One of our clients was a cheerleader of a team. So it's really cool to kind of read through those things. And it actually feels like you're getting to know that person. It also sells why you want to do business with that person and builds that connection even before they even come into your chair. I would have a hunch too that would almost decrease a no-show rate because you feel a little bit of a connection with the person. We don't know that that's true, but you feel a connection. You feel like, oh, I kind of know this person. I'm not as nervous going into it. And it's also just attractive. It builds that relationship right up front.
Yeah. And again, I think traditionally we've really relied on third-party data to try to build the know, like, and trust bucket. But how can we use our ad copy to build a relationship, right? And start engaging the prospect? Because people have a lot of options, just like we talked about. People have a ton of options of where they can go get Botox, Dysport, or any of the services that you offer for the most part, weight loss program, whatever it is. And we want to develop that emotional connection. So why not lean into that more with our ad copy? So we're excited about those two things. And I think on this segment, we're going to sound like very spazzy because we've always got a new idea. But I think that's what makes us great. And I think this information is what's going to allow you, the listeners, to be great in terms of implementation for your marketing too. We're never going to we're never going to settle. We're always going to look for those ways to be 5 or 10% better than we were last week. And that means testing and coming up with the new ideas. Gary Vaynerchuk has a quote, marketers ruin everything. As something starts to work, people start to adopt it in mass and those things become less effective. You always have to be one step ahead. And that's just, I would say that's an activity that never ends. So cool. I really like that. Anything to add to those, Lauren?
No, I think that's awesome.
Our next segment, we're going to jump into our follower Q&A. Again, if you've got questions on Instagram, find us at Med Spa Magic Marketing on Instagram. Make sure you give us a follow there. We've got all sorts of tidbits and reels that come out several times a week. And then also you can email us at support@medspamagicmarketing.com and just put podcast question in the subject line. These are some questions that have popped up recently, just either in interactions on sales calls or with clients for the most part. So we've got 3 questions we were going to address today. Lauren, let's go a little bit out of order here, but when we're talking about spending money, I think one of the first questions people have when they're getting into marketing specifically is, we have so many options. I just talked to somebody today. They were running ads on radio. They had billboards in their town. They had done Google ads. They'd done SEO. With so many options, how do we pick where we're going to spend our ad dollars first? And how do we generally recommend, business owners think about this in terms of prioritization?
Yeah. So priority 1 for us almost all the time is Meta. The main reason with that is we see the cheapest customer acquisition cost and we're able to reach the most amount of people for the lowest amount of spend. There's also a little bit less competition because people aren't seeing your stuff side by side. Other things like there is on Google, when you search a promo, you see 6 ads for the same thing. This is hitting you in the feed at a different time than you might be seeing other options. So Meta is definitely the number 1 place we recommend. Like I said, mainly it's the cheapest customer acquisition acquisition cost, and we kind of get the most juice for our squeeze from that platform. Then from there, we transition to Google, recommend that as the next point. What you'll see on Google is you see a higher customer acquisition cost and a higher conversion rate too, but we also expect a little bit higher quality of a person because they directly went searching for that service. And then the next step from there would be SEO and optimizing your website for blue link results too.
Yeah. So Facebook and Instagram ads, priority 1A for most services. Priority 1B, I call it that because they're close. So I like to call them 1A and 1B instead of 1 and 2, Google ads. And then third would be search engine optimization. So many businesses and agencies, they're selling you SEO first. I think that's a major mistake. I say that as an SEO professional by trade. Really, for us, that needs to pass the burn test. So in order of priority, that's generally the way that we like to blueprint it. The only caveat I think we'd add to that is if you're advertising a very niche service like laser hair or tattoo removal, especially something like that, it's too much of a needle in the haystack in terms of your response rate on Facebook and Instagram. So even though you're reaching a ton of people, the percentage of people seeing the ad for a service like that is so small. That is a case where we'd recommend Google first as the priority. But I think those two in tandem is a great place to start. And I know we focused that conversation on online marketing. I think the reality is in 2025, it's probably the best place to spend our ad dollars. If that changes, like, by all means, I've done every door direct mails where I've bundled postcards, wrapped them with rubber bands with pieces of paper, and dropped them off in bags at the post office. Like, if that works best, that's what we're going to be doing for our clients. I think there are strategic placements in terms of like radio and things for sensitive topics that are harder to get through in terms of ads platforms. So you're doing things like hormones, erectile dysfunction treatments. There can be some potential use cases for radio and other media platforms there. But in general, it really is online because that's where we get the best data, the most accuracy, the most lifetime ability to change our strategy. And like Lauren said, lowest customer acquisition, best bang for our buck.
Yeah.
Next question here. Switching to Sculpt ads. So I had some people asking us about Sculpt ads. A lot of people talking about the sculpting devices. I don't know if that's just a weird anecdotal experience for me lately. But with Sculpt, I think a lot of people get into advertising Sculpt and they either have an unrealistic expectation of the result or they think they're going to charge their standard high package price and see success. Lauren, could you speak to what we typically recommend if you're trying to advertise Sculpt or Cool Sculpting or any of those body contouring type devices?
Yeah. So honestly, with those, it's a little bit more challenging because in the ad space, it's hard to use before and after images, which are our key sellers. So we have to go heavy promo here to really grab attention and make it worth it, as well as good headlines too. So typically for an effective Sculpt or Cool Sculpting type service, we're looking at a discount of at least 50% off, sometimes 40, but mostly 50% off. The challenge with those is with Botox, we can push ourselves as the best provider. You're going to get the best result. With a machine, it's more challenging because you're likely going to see similar results regardless of where you go. And that's kind of what people believe. So you'll see people come in for consults, but they are price shopping to the max. So it's as soon as they hear the cheapest price is what they're going to go with. So unfortunately, if you're not pushing it to patients that already exist, if you're looking to do it cold through ads, it's got to be the best price, if not close to the best in town, something really attractive that gets people in.
Yeah, for sure. Like you can maybe sell a full price package to your existing Botox clients, but if you're trying to lead with advertising, like Lauren said, to a cold audience, and I want to explain the math of the trade-off here. So some of you heard that and gasped, oh my gosh, 50%, I just gave away all my service. That was my profit margin. But let me explain kind of the reality of the math. So one of the people I talked to today, this question prompted, they're selling packages for $3,600. And my hunch would be if they tried to advertise just a consult at their normal package price, they might pay, I don't know, half of that in customer acquisition costs. That seems astronomical, but I wouldn't be surprised. So let's say they paid $1,800 in customer acquisition costs. That means their margin on the service was $1,800, right? There's $1,800 left over on the package sale. If you discount that down to $2,500, but your customer acquisition cost, your cost to get a client goes all the way down to $500, you now have $2,000 in margin. So your margin is actually better, even though you discounted over $1,000. So you have to understand that relationship between customer acquisition cost and the discount. As you dial up the attractiveness of your offer, you're lowering your acquisition costs. And your margin comes from the combination of the discount and your acquisition cost relative to the purchase price, right? So really understand the math there, like Lauren said. And there's a major benefit to maximizing butts in the seats. So if you want to advertise those services directly to an audience that you don't already have a relationship with, you're going to have to be price competitive. Lauren, third question we wanted to talk about. This was spurred on by a client conversation too. I think this was one of your client calls, actually.
Yeah.
Somebody got on the call and said, hey, we're not doing SEO for this client, but they asked, this was one of the providers, hey, why aren't we showing up on Google for XYZ service? And this is, I think, something that people often wonder, right? I go to Google, I look for the services that I offer in my town, and I see my competitors popping up, and why am I not popping up? I think there's a ton to this. So we'll talk about, there's 3 different parts of the search result. There's the Google ads, which we kind of touched on. It's a pay per click model. If you're running Google ads, you're eligible to show in the ad space. From there, there's the maps result. So that's where most of the search traffic is coming from and most of the visits are coming from. And then there are the blue links that show up below the search results. So to simplify this, I'll start with the blue links. There are a lot of technical things that people talk about, but really to understand how the blue link results, the traditional search results, are impacted, it's really twofold, primarily. It's, does Google understand what you do and where you provide services, what you do and where you do it? Is your page content and blueprint appropriately set up? And then from there, how many other trusted and reputable websites have linked to your business? Those are the 2 most important things. So I'd say that's too much of a detailed thing to go into for this. So if you want more information on SEO and why you're not showing up on Google, if you go to our YouTube channel, there should be a recent video on SEO somewhere in that feed. Go find some of those recent SEO videos. And then Lauren, in the maps results, some quick wins. If people aren't finding themselves in a Google search result, how can they show up more prominently in those maps results specifically?
The number one way is to get a lot of really good reviews. So request all of your existing clients when they leave the door or somebody new had a great experience to leave you a great review on their way out. We have people offering certain things for Google reviews as well. So make sure you're getting a lot of 5-star reviews. That is the best proxy for Google to know who is actually doing business with you and how often, and how up to date are those as well. If you want to show for specific services in the Maps pack, have those people leave what service they did with you and that they loved. So I got a Botox treatment with so-and-so and I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. So those are simple things that you can easily win on, as well as making sure your business profile is accurately optimized. So having the correct categories listed, keeping it up to date with posts and images, making sure all of the services that you offered are listed and have a keyword-rich description. So little simple quick wins, honestly, in your Google business listing, as well as making sure you're getting lots of reviews.
Yeah, for sure. Great actionable advice to go audit that Google listing. The other thing to keep in mind is technically you can't incentivize reviews. So if you're doing that, be strategic, do it offline. My dentist, who I always use as examples for some reason, he's got a little Chick-fil-A gift card on the stand that when you go to close out, he just says, hey, if we find out you leave us a review, we'll give you a $5 Chick-fil-A gift card. But definitely be careful with doing that. Technically is a violation of Google's guidelines. But yeah, service list, category tags, review volume, like Lauren said, getting those 5-star reviews, the larger review volume is going to lend itself to showing up more frequently with a larger footprint. So I think that those were great tidbits of advice. Lauren delivered the goods today, as always. Watching Rory McIlroy win the Masters a couple weeks back was more than just a sports moment. It was a human moment. It was a story of grit, falling short again and again, and getting back up, not just to compete, but to conquer. For over a decade, he had carried the weight of expectations, the pressure to complete the career Grand Slam, the critics, the doubters, and perhaps the harshest of all, his own inner voice. He's come so close so many times, and each time he fell short, it could have been the reason to stop, to believe the story that maybe it wasn't meant to be, but he didn't. And under immense pressure and in the face of that adversity, he stepped up and he finally won the green jacket. Now you might be thinking, what does this have to do with me and my med spa? But here's the truth. Every single one of us has our masters, that elusive goal, the next level, the dream we've been chasing. And the journey, it's rarely linear. It's filled with bad moments, no-show consultations, hiring headaches, ad campaigns that flop, and moments where you seriously question if you're cut out for this. Just like Rory, setbacks often come right before the breakthrough. The key, don't stop swinging. Don't let one tough season or even a tough decade write the ending of your story. Pressure, adversity, and even failure, they're not stop signs, they're refining fires. They shape us, prepare us, and position us for something greater. So if you're in the valley right now, if you're feeling the weight of building this thing, of leading your team, growing your client base, I want to encourage you to keep going, keep showing up, and keep doing the work. Breakthroughs you've been working toward might not be far off. Remember, greatness isn't found with one win alone. It's found in the willingness to keep fighting after the loss. Be the kind of leader, the kind of owner who gets back up every time. Your master's moment might be right around the corner. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This podcast is a production of Med Spa Magic Marketing. If your med spa or aesthetic practice is in need of digital marketing services, help with advertising on Facebook, Instagram, Google, lead generation, and booking more appointments, please visit medspamagicmarketing.com.